Hope everyone is doing well today. While we're waiting on folks to join, Cooped Up is my website. You can visit that anytime. I say I post stuff there. I don't do it very often, but you can still go check it out. I'm Cooped Up is my handle in all the social places. Would love a follow, particularly on the Instagrams if you were there. And be sure to like, click the bell, whatever the subscribe button is, wherever you watch or listen to this. This is broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all of the major podcast platforms. On Spotify in particular, you can actually watch it on video as well. So be sure to subscribe there. Would love comments. So feel free to comment if you are watching this live. And if you are not watching this live, I hope you have a good time just listening to have a conversation. So anyway, I hope everyone is doing well today. I woke up today feeling really like hungover. It was so weird. In the middle of the night, maybe not middle of the night, like 4 a.m, I woke up and I had a splitting headache and I was starting to get real sniffly and all of that. And it honestly felt like a hangover, but I know it wasn't because I'm not drinking right now. I'm trying to get off alcohol, not permanently, but just give my liver a rest after the summer that we've had, get my blood pressure under control a little bit. But I was sniffly. Fortunately, Claritin took care of the sniffles part of it, but then I was sneezing most of the day. Surprisingly, I've not taken a COVID test yet. I doubt I have that since I just had it like 60 days ago. Certainly the immunity from COVID is at least 60 days, right? Hey, Mama. Good to see ya. But that was how I started my day. And then got the kids ready for school. And then Todd took them to school this morning. So I laid back down in bed for a little bit. And then I got the most exciting phone call of my life. It was actually a text of my life. Hyperbole, not really of my life, but of the day. Let's put it that way. My car was finally ready. I have Gwen back. They delivered her at about noon today. Gwen is my Range Rover, white Range Rover. She's named after the evil character Gwendolyn on Bad Moms, if you're familiar with that movie. Love her. But I have not seen Gwendolyn, Gwen is what I call her, since the middle of June. I took her in, the air conditioner went out and earlier this summer, and I took her in. I've had to make an appointment like 3 weeks in advance, and they still had her for 2 months. And not because it was a complicated problem. They had to take it in, and then they had to find, they're understaffed, so they had to find time to find someone to look at it. And then once they figured out what the problem was, they had to order the parts. And of course, the parts are delayed, which is the story of everyone's life these days. And then finally, they got the parts in, and then they had to coordinate with the extended warranty company that we have. All said, she is back. I had to pay a $1,500 ransom, is what it felt like to get her back, though, because I did the 5-year service, and 5-year service on a Range Rover is $1,000, and my copay on my insurance is $500. So yeah, it was a spendy day today, but I got my car back. I have been driving around in our Jeep, which our Jeep has big tires, the rack on the front, a big tire on the back. It's really fun to look at. It's fun to drive a little bit. It's not fun to drive at all on the highway or on, like, we take it on our RV trips. It's really fun on RV trips. Driving around Dallas, I need a chiropractor after driving the Jeep. So I'm very happy to have my Range Rover back. Yay! It's a happy day. So feel free to comment, ask questions, whatever. Keep in mind there's a 20-second delay between the time I say the words and you hear them. And then, so sometimes I don't know what you're talking about, and I can't see the comment threads on this end. So be kind of clear in what you're saying, okay? Have you been reading about these? We're having a water shortage in the United States. Stuff is drying up like crazy, and it's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. But there are some, and I'm all about finding the silver linings. There are some really interesting things that are happening as a result of all of these lakes and rivers drying up or their water levels going down. They're finding all kinds of crazy shit, y'all. So here in Texas, I assume most of y'all are in Texas, but not everyone. Here in Texas, there's not too far from here in Dallas, there's a river that kind of dried out some, and they found, I think they're 140 million years old, dinosaur tracks, and they're really, really clear that no one had seen in ever that they know of. Like they were under a river, and the river has gone down, and so they found these dinosaur tracks, which is really cool. There's this area just southwest of Dallas Fort Worth. What's the name? Glen Rose is the name of the town, and there's a whole bunch of dinosaur stuff around there. And I think it was in that area, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and then they're finding old towns because here in Texas, at least, we have one natural lake in the entire state of Texas. Every other lake in Texas is a dammed up river. And then in Texas, it doesn't. And so they dam a river and then it just floods. Mostly it floods like a prairie or something, not really anything exciting. But in other parts of the United States and of the world, they do like valleys, like alpine valleys, like types of thing. And there are whole towns that ended up getting flooded. They evacuated the town. They bought the people out. They relocated as much as they could. And then they flooded the valley, right? And so scuba divers have known about these things for a long time, supposedly. They're very, like, people who like to do that sort of thing. You could not get me to scuba dive in a lake ever. I do not. I only get into the lake for two reasons. One, if I have to pee so bad and I don't want to do it off the side of the boat. Or two, if I have had enough to drink that I no longer have the inhibitions of getting into a Texas lake. Because Texas lakes are... There's only one lake in Texas that does not bother me all that much, and that's Possum Kingdom. Our friend Sherry and Lisa have a house there. It's a beautiful lake, and the water is not super murky. It's really deep. That also freaks me out because I don't have many like deep fears, but deep dark water is one of my... Dark water generally, but especially if it's deep, is one of my big fears. So I always wear a life jacket, and I know how to swim just fine. I'll get into that lake. And then they're finding bodies in other lake. I think out in, was it Lake Mead out in the Las Vegas area, which that tracks. They're finding like bodies, bones, old cars that have bodies in them. Some mafia shit, y'all. It's crazy. So if there is a silver lining to all of this, that is that. I went out way before Todd. I dated this guy named Rob, and his family had a boathouse on Lake Powell, which is in Arizona. It's a ridiculous lake. It's like in the middle of the desert. It's this big lake in the middle of the desert, right? It's beautiful, but it's just a dammed up river, and it really shouldn't be there. But so we went out there, and this would have been in like 1990, I'm going to say 97 or 98 is when kind of he and I were going out off and on, and we went out there. Big old houseboat with like a boat behind it and like jet skis and all that kind of stuff. Well, Lake Powell at the time was really full. And so all you could do is just kind of putter around on the boat and stuff. There was like barely any hiking around it. There were no canyons or anything like that. Well, since the water levels have come down and there's like this toilet bowl around the side. And I think all major lakes have a toilet bowl, like that are in a craggy area, have like a toilet bowl around them, the line. But Lake Powell supposedly is gorgeous, even more gorgeous now than it was then, because there are like these caves and like these pictures of like these things that you can walk through that are all like where the river used to run and all that. It's so cool. So I guess there are pluses to kind of letting things get back to the way they were before we humans dam them up and turn them into into lakes. But yeah, Kelly is also afraid of deep, dark water. Yeah. So it's like Natalie Wood. That is all you have to say to me is, yes, I share it with her. I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like the unknown, what you can't see. So cruise ships do not bother me, but like I could not jump off of a cruise ship or like even just jump into the water off. That would freak me out. I sometimes have nightmares about being in the ocean and going under. And sometimes it's not even, there's like not even sharks and stuff. It's just the abyss. Like, no, not happening. Todd and I went on a cruise back in, I'll say like 2002, probably, maybe 2001. We did a cruise out of Miami, and it was the Western Caribbean. So Miami, Nassau, Coco Cay, because it was Royal Caribbean, Coco Cay, which is their private island. It was nothing like it is now. It was just a a patch of sand. They docked and all that kind of stuff with like a little like surf house and all that kind of stuff. And then we went to Key West also. But at Coco Cay, you could snorkel, and they had like snorkel rentals, all that kind of stuff. And they had this big bay, and it had like ropes around, like nets around it. I'm guessing to keep sharks out or keep people in. I'm not sure what it, or to just give you some boundary. So we're snorkeling. I could never scuba dive; that would freak me out. But I can snorkel. I've snorkeled in St. Thomas. I've snorkeled in many places, but we were snorkeling there, and they have like these sunken boats and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm looking, I'm floating, and I think I probably have. Oh, they made us wear an inflatable life vest, like a deflated life vest, right? Like on an airplane kind of thing, but not with the just you have to blow it up if you want. So you're wearing that and you're snorkeling, and I'm not paying attention, and I drift kind of over a sea cliff, like where I go from the water's maybe 20, 30, in the Caribbean, it's hard to know. It could be 100 feet. And if it's crystal clear, it looks fine. But I drifted into where you could not see the bottom clearly. You could see movement at the bottom, which to me is like tiger sharks, nurse sharks, whatever. It could have just been crabs. I don't know what it was. But I could see kind of movement at the bottom. And the current was kind of pulling me out. I don't often have panic attacks. Actually, I can only think of that one time, I think, that I've ever had a panic attack. I immediately went into, oh my God, I'm going to die. Blowing on the vest, like laid on my back. Yeah, no, not having that. Todd just laughed, because Todd has no fear. Todd scuba dived. He scuba dived. He got certified here in a Texas lake to scuba dive, like out in Palestine, Texas. He and my late best friend, Brian, did that together. And then we went to Mexico and they scuba dived. Todd has even scuba dived. This is not scary. This is just kind of weird. Todd even scuba dived. It was a total flex. Total flex. Monica, I know you hate it when I say that. He scuba dived in the Epcot Aquarium. And I see you mentioning that. Remember when Todd scuba dived at Disney, that shark smiling at him? So you can scuba dive in the aquarium at Epcot Center at Walt Disney World. And Todd did that, and they do it in a group of like 4 or 5. It costs a lot of, I think it was like $400 to do. Back in the day, who knows what it costs now. And they take you by, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. He said it was really cool, but he's snorkeling in this thing. And so we are watching him because I don't know if you've been there, but it's this massive aquarium. You pretty much go in on the second story, and it's like a full story below and a full story above of just open water, right? And they have, at the time they didn't have the dolphins in it. I think they have dolphins in it or porpoises now. It was just shark, 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 stingray, shark, moray eel, shark. Like that's all. I mean, it was so many sharks. And none of them were great whites. None of them were like the dangerous sharks that I know of. But we're watching Todd scuba dive. And it's so funny because part of it is they're scuba diving and kind of exploring, but then they're also interacting with us. So there's a total distraction. So he is at the glass and he's like waving, and I think it was my niece Logan who was there. So this would have been forever ago. The kids were not born yet. My nephew Sterling was not born yet. So we were there with Logan. Logan, who is now a senior in college, was probably in like the second grade at the time. First or second grade. Young enough where it was like her first plane ride. And when we were in the sky, she goes, "Is this heaven? Are we going to die?" Yeah, that sort of thing. So he's playing with us, and all of a sudden he like turns, and there was a shark, like toothy grin, swimming straight at him, and it swam at him and past him, but it was like, and of course he freaks out about it. We're watching this, and we are in between freaking out and laughing our asses off. It was so funny. Monica is saying, when we wade fish at the bay, I have eyes like a gecko, look in all directions. See, I couldn't even do that, Monica. Monica they go down to Port O'Connor on the Texas coast, and they wade around, and they get crabbing and fishing and all that kind of stuff. I do not go in the water beyond when if I cannot see my feet, Only time I will do that is if I know that there's a sandbar like 5 feet ahead of me. Like if there's a temporary dip, I will like thrash my way across it. I'm a great swimmer, but I will thrash my way across that in a rush. It's a scene, y'all. It is a scene. So how did I get on that topic? Just dark water, I think is what we were talking about. So, um, and then is it me or is everyone in your life and on your social media now an expert in finance, student loans, interest, amortization, reverse amortization, negative amortization? These are all phrases I've seen in the last 24 hours, and I'm kind of sick of it already. And I, against my own better judgment, I was texting with Eric last night, and it's like, we're not touching it. We were just having a conversation about it. And then I, against my own better judgment, decided, you know what? I am going to post about it. And I wasn't like making this grand opinion about whether it was right or wrong. I try not to do that. My goal with all of these things is to try to make it where people think about things, maybe present a different point of view, play devil's advocate sometimes even, or just highlight hypocrisy. That's one of my hobbies, is highlighting hypocrisy. But so last night I posted on Facebook something about, to the effect of, before you sit in judgment about what's fair or not fair, let's just keep in mind, or please keep in mind, if you have been a beneficiary of, and I'm paraphrasing it at this point badly, if you've been a beneficiary of any stimulus programs, PPP, lucrative tax cuts, tax advantaged planning, that kind of stuff, right? Keep that in mind when we're talking about these people getting the $10,000 of federal student loan relief. And my goodness, quite a conversation ensued after that. For the most part, very civil. There are a few people I know who are extremely, we'll say, aggressive on it, but I think for the most part, it was a remarkably civil conversation. But to my point on that is, fair and equal are not the same thing. Just because you paid off your if you paid off your student loans, doesn't mean that it is unfair that other people don't have to. Because times are different, things are different, expectations of life are different, all of that kind of stuff. So I'll tell you, when I graduated from SMU, I was a Pell Grant child. I do not come from money. No one in the Rio Grande Valley does. We probably were better off than most in the Rio Grande Valley, but that's like saying we were the richest of the poorest of the poor. But I graduated from SMU. I had $35,000 in student loans. So this would have been in 1997, $35,000 in student loans, all Stafford loans, all at about 8% interest. The federal government paid for the interest during my school period and for the 6 months afterwards. And then I could defer for up to 2 years after that, and interest would accrue during that deferral process, right? Or time frame. And when I graduated, my first job made like $17,000 a year. Actually, you know what's funny is that it probably wasn't until almost the very end of my repayment period where I was even making more than the loan was. Like the loan was $35,000 plus the little bit of interest on those 2 years that I deferred it. I don't think I was making $40,000 or even $40,000 until right before I started my business. So that's kind of how it was. It was my second largest payment. Rent was my number one, and my student loan was number two. My car was number three, and I don't resent it. I think it was an investment in my future and all of that kind of stuff. And just because I did it, and I did it because I had a job, and then I had a part-time job. I worked at Pottery Barn. I worked at Pottery Barn evenings, like two evenings a week, and then one shift on the weekends. Sometimes it was a 4-hour shift, sometimes it was an 8-hour shift, but I always just to kind of make ends meet. I also got a lot of free meals and drinks because I was a slut. You didn't see that one coming, did you? I'm not advocating that people become sluts, but I mean, if it does pay the bills, pays the bills. I wasn't planning to say that. My mother's watching. My sister's watching. Okay. I've said worse, right? Am I blushing? I think I'm a little red. Um, but I'm not saying other people. I also had a roommate. I realized I was talking to my friend Suzanne this morning. I did not realize that there's literally one single year of my entire life that I've not had a roommate. Like one or someone I live with. I have lived alone 1 year of my entire life. And it was my senior year at SMU. I had a tiny little shitbox apartment for $450 a month at the Corners East in the Village area, which it doesn't even exist anymore. They bulldozed it and there's new apartments there now. In that year, and then after that, I had a roommate. Luke was my roommate. And then I moved out from there, and then Scott was my roommate. And then Todd, Scott, and Brian and I all lived together. And then Todd and I have been together, well, since before that even, because we were already overlapping. So I have lived alone 1 year of my life. And a lot of it was to save money for roommates. You have roommates, you split the bills on. So I don't know, do kids these days still have roommates? Like, I don't know if any of the people who work with me, like 2 of them are married, 3 of them are married actually now, but I don't know, I can't think of any of them that talk about, and then numerous other ones, I can't think of any of them who have roommates. I feel like they all live alone. So they don't have that to split the bills. None of them have part-time jobs. I had one employee in the 20 years I've had my business. I can only think of one employee who just recently left, who had a part-time job. He worked retail at a Lucky, the jeans place. So, and I did all of those things. I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do. I try not to shit on people, and I try not to count people's money. And I don't understand the problem. And y'all ask questions. I may not know the answers, or please give feedback. I don't understand what the problem or the crisis is. But what I do know is that enough smart people do think it is a problem and do think it is a crisis that I do think something is amiss. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think it is necessarily the people. I think it might be the system. Like, it's too expensive. And here's my other thing. People are like, well, you signed on to get this loan, and now you're changing the rules, and it's not fair to the people who followed the rules and all that kind of stuff. I can see that point. But also, I don't think fair and equal are the same thing. I don't think treating treating you equally is fair necessarily. And also, think about this, the loans. How old are you when you sign these loan papers? I was 17 or maybe just turned 18. So just barely, driving barely, voting barely. I could go away to war. I couldn't drink yet legally. All of these things. And so I'm not sure that that's the time of your life. And here's the other thing that is so weird about this. So when you fill out, and this is how it went back in the day when I was a kid, I assume it hasn't changed that much. But back, you filled out the FAFSA form that tells you, it takes into calculation how much you can pay, what your ability to pay was, right? And I think my ability to pay, based on all of that, was like $6,000 per year or something like that, which that adds up to 24. And then I took another like 11 to help make ends meet and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I ended up at 35. But so like $6,000, I think, is what they said. Well, with that is student loans are counted as part of that to get you to that $6,000. So you're still, when I was in college, at least, the way financial aid works is they're like, you are able to come out of pocket $6,000. So they got to that 6,000 number, right? Then, and that may be where I had some of the extra loans too, but they included the maximum of the FAFSA loan, or the Stafford loan rather, to get you to that 6,000. So you had the loan and you still had to come up with the money. So it wasn't like the loan replaced the money, right? And so you're 18, you're told the only way you're going to be able to, and I was a Pell Grant kid too, I don't come from money. I just act like it. So you're 18, you're wanting to go away to college because you're a driven child, or that's just the way you know that is. In my case, you know that's the way out of your circumstance. You want to go to college, and you're told this is how you have to do it. You have to pay $6,000, and of the rest of it, the only way you can do it, the formula only works if you take this 4,000 whatever. I don't remember what the loan amount was each year. Maybe it was like I think it was 8,500 a year that you could take as the max, and that's probably what I did every year. Took the max on that, and that's probably how I added up to $35,000, give or take. But so you're told this as an 18-year-old, where that your future is sign on this line and it's done, and that is the only way you can get it done, unless you just want to just kill yourself and work your ass off. What is anyone going to do? I think you're going to sign that form. So I don't think that that's the problem. Also, as Monica illustrates here, it's harder to find a job without a 4-year degree. There are secretary jobs that require a 4-year degree now. It is crazy to me. A lot of people say it is not tackling the right problem. The problem is that college has gotten too expensive. The issue is there's not many levers that the federal government can pull to affect college tuition. Those are mostly state or private things, right? So that's, I think that Biden is just trying to pull the levers he can pull. Some people say he's buying votes. I think that Trump also bought votes. The Trump tax cuts were very, very kind to my family. I will tell you, we got a tax return by paying half as much estimated taxes, and I got a tax return, whereas previously I would pay all of my estimated taxes and still owe another quarter of it. So it was very good to us. And the other thing to keep in mind also on this loan forgiveness thing, people, is that they're not sending these people a check. They're not each getting $10,000. They're not getting $20,000. They are getting $10,000 removed. Most people have less. The bulk of the people who have loans have less than $25,000. And I think many of them have less than, I think a huge chunk have less than 10,000. So it's going to wipe that off. But it's just a monthly payment. So if you have, like my monthly payment was like $418, I think, or $481. It was actually $481.25. The only number I can remember. $481.25 was my monthly payment on my student loans as I was making $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year as it went up, right? So on that would just be a payment that goes away. So it's not cash in my pocket. It's just cash that's not leaving my pocket anymore that I could perhaps spend on other things, right? I also racked up a lot of credit card debt during those days because I didn't have enough money. So it's not a check. It is just an elimination of a payment, effectively. And this is also what I am interested in knowing. I am interested in knowing how much of the people who are in crisis, the people who are having the biggest issue with it, and I don't know the answer, and this is not sitting in judgment, but I want to know how many of them have undergraduate loans versus graduate school loans. And I would be interested to know what their graduate school loan is, how they use that graduate degree, and all of that kind of stuff. Because I think for undergraduate, all day long, I think forgive it. I am cool with that. Like, I just think that is a situation that we put 18-year-olds in. Our society has said college degrees are required to move up. You know, it's all just pounded into our heads. If you want, you got to have degrees to get the cheese, basically. I think that Shaq actually says that to his kids. And why I know that, I have no idea. But for graduate students, so a lot of them, like if you go to medical school, you get a lot of debt. But then when you get out of medical school, you make a lot of money, right? That balances. You go to law school, you have a lot of debt. But then you go into a career. If you are making less than $125,000 as $125,000 as a lawyer, you're probably not a very good lawyer. Yes, I said it. I don't know if I mean it, but I said it. The same with a doctor, right? So if you're in either of those categories and you qualify for the forgiveness, okay. For me, though, it's the people like I know numerous people who went to law school, racked up a bunch of law school debt, and aren't doing anything with the law school degree. That's not my problem. Not my problem at all. Now, the undergraduate stuff I'm cool with, but the graduate stuff, or if you made the choice to go get a master's of liberal arts degree, that doesn't really lead to any increase. If it was just for your fun, if it was just to either delay adulthood or to expand your mind, but not in a way that was actually going to be monetized, all that kind of stuff, I struggle with that one too. If you got an MBA and it was kind of a shitty MBA, because the reality is, if you get an MBA, it really only counts if you go to a really good school, and it really only counts if you did it full time. If you do an executive MBA, unless you work for a major corporation, if you did an executive MBA program or you did it at kind of a no-name school, it's not materially improving your life. There's study after study that show that. So that's not me just pontificating on that. On those things, that is like, well, someone made a choice, right? That's where I struggle with it. I see y'all have made some long comments here, so let me see. My niece Logan just qualified for a Pell Grant. It's P-E-L-L, by the way, Monica. Pell Grant this year. She had to use our income, which she never qualified for grants. She did her own taxes and got grants. Didn't cover her entire semester. Well, Pell Grant, I think I only got like $450. So I think, because it's on a graduating scale, but if you get one at all, you're in the forgiveness. Although I don't know. So is she going to, so maybe if she is a Pell Grant recipient now, she'll get 20,000 instead of the 10. I think the details are still working themselves out on that. But what I have seen, that if you owe $10,000 or less, or if you're a Pell student and you owe 20,000 or less, to stop paying your loans. Stop paying. Don't go into default, but if you are in deferment, say you allow deferment stop paying, because if it's going to get forgiven, there's no reason at all to keep paying for it, right? And then some people are like, why are we giving away money? Why are we giving away money? You know what? I got a shit ton of money during the pandemic from the government. Some of it I needed. Some of it I didn't know if I was going to need, but they were like, just take it. Just take it. Like there was not really much of an option you didn't have to apply for it, but you didn't know what was going on either. Plus there are all kinds of tax loopholes. I talked about one earlier in the broadcast. So Eric's saying the thing even worse than signing loans at age 18 is the credit card companies on campus peddling cards the first weekend of school. That got me in more trouble than my student loans. Same. The only plus side to having signed up for credit cards that early in my college degree is I still have one of them. So my credit history looks like 30 years long. Like it's 29 years long at this point, which is wonderful. If I were to cancel that card, I think my next longest card is it's like half as long. So it could negatively impact my credit. So that is the one saving grace. And I got a free t-shirt. Kelly paid off her loans. I have no problem with the current forgiveness plan. The recipients won't be in debt, and now they'll be able to put money into the economy, whether that's getting an apartment, buying a home, buying a car, or even donating. Yes. Some people are complaining that it's going to cause more inflation. I don't know about that. I bet a lot of people who are in that situation are going to use it to buy something or pay down something, but not buy something in a way that it's like inflationary, but more like something that they've been delaying until they get it paid off, you know? And Monica's saying that Logan, that's my niece, they told her that she's required to get a job that requires a 4-year degree. If she gets anything less or becomes a housewife, she's going to pay us back. Get that in writing. We'll see. Anyway, do you have anything else? Time flies, doesn't it? I did not get to walk my 2 miles this morning because I felt so bad. So I may go out and walk a little bit. Maybe not 2 miles. It's a little hot. What is the temperature? 91 degrees. Well, it says 91, but I think it probably feels a lot hotter than that. All righty. Well, with that, then if that's all, then I'm going to say that's all, folks. Alrighty. I love you. It's important to know you are loved. I love that you watched this. Thank you for letting me externally process. This is my daily therapy. I miss you when I'm not able to come live. And with that, I will see you tomorrow. Don't shoot yourself to death in the meantime, but I will see you tomorrow at 4:30 for, I'm talking myself out. I'm real good at talking myself out of everything. I may talk myself into a glass of wine tonight too. We'll see. All right, I'll see you tomorrow at 4:30 for another episode of Cooped Up Live. Should I say? Talk to you later. Bye. Love y'all.